of the Always Believe House. Oh, today we're going to continue using the quadratic formula. Remember, yesterday you went through and found the b squared minus 4ac on all the problems. That number was called the discriminant. If the discriminant was positive, it had two zeros. If the discriminant was a perfect square, the quadratic would factor and you could get the roots that way, okay? If the quadratic was, or the discriminant was not a perfect square, you're going to get big decimals as the answers of the zeros. You'll later learn to leave those as square root answers to be exact, okay? If b squared minus 4ac was 0, there was only one zero. If b squared minus 4ac was negative, there was no solution. So yesterday you should have found all the discriminants. If you did not do yesterday's lesson, need to go back and do that lesson before you do today, okay? So finish up yesterday's lesson first before you do this. Today we're actually going to go and calculate the zeros. So a magical whiteboard appears and you can see on the paper yesterday's lesson, okay? These are the notes I gave you from yesterday. You should have gotten all the discriminants on every single problem, then wrote down 2, 1, or 0 for the number of zeros. And remember, I told you to leave to the right blank because we're going to use that today to do the rest of the work. Okay, so on the rest of the work, what we're going to do is we're going to write down negative b plus or minus the square root. And then in that square root, we're going to put the answer we got yesterday. This one would be 400 all over 2a. That's the quadratic formula. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. We found the b squared minus 4ac. It's easier if you do that first, plug it in, and then do the rest. Now then, let's find the answer. So we're going to write down negative parentheses, our b was 4, plus or minus the square root of 400 all over 2 times 3. Okay? So I'm going to go and just simplify this. So I'm going to have negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 400 is 20 all over 6. And then you can do this on your calculator. So I'm going to do negative 4 plus 20 divided by 6. So negative 4 plus 20. And I need to hit a fraction, don't I? I'm sorry about that. Hit Control Divide. And then do negative 4. Jiminy crickets. Not minus 4, negative 4. Negative 4 plus 20. Hit the down button, hit 6, and then enter. And I'm going to get 8/3, okay? That would be what, 2.333 or 2.666, right? Just leave it as 8 over 3. So go back to here, put equals 8 over 3, and then do negative 4 minus 20 divided by 6. So hit Control Divide, negative 4 minus 20, hit the down button, and then type in 6. This is going to be tedious, and you get negative 4. Okay? So the two zeros of this would be 8 over 3 and negative 4. That's where the parabola crosses the x-axis. Those are your zeros, okay? Piece of cake. Oh. Okay, let's do the next one, and let me do this in a different colored ink so it looks a little bit better. We're going to write down negative b plus or minus the square root, and on this one our square root was 1, right here, all over 2a. Now then we're going to plug into the formula. Negative parentheses, our b was what, 3? Plus or minus the square root of 1 all over 2, and our a was 1, wasn't it? Okay, this is going to turn into negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 1 is 1 all over 2. Now then, we might be able to do this in our brain, okay? Negative 3 plus 1 is a negative 2. Negative 2 divided by 2 is a negative 1, and negative 3 minus 1 is negative 4. Negative 4 divided by 2 is a negative 2. This would be our zeros. You can still plug these into the calculator if you want, okay? Hit Control Divide, put the top in, put the bottom in, boom, you got your answer. You can even plug in this up here if you wanted to. Okay? So if you wanted to, you could plug that in, but you got to do one as positive and one as negative, don't you? But if you wanted to, you could type that as is into the calculator, and it would give you the zeros. Let's do number 9. Okay? So number 9, I'm going to have negative b plus or minus the square root. I'm going to write this number in, 1681 all over 2a. Now that I'm going to replace my b and my a. So negative, my b is what? 9 plus or minus, and let's figure out the square root of 81. So control x squared, is it 1681? 1681, I think this is a perfect square. 1681, hit enter, and it's 41 in it, okay? So go back to here, the square root of 1681 is going to be 41 all over, this is a 9, 2 times my a is 4, 2 times 8. If I wanted to, I could type that as is. I'm going to kind of simplify it. Negative 9 plus or minus 41 all over 16. So I'm going to do negative 9 plus 41 divided by 16, negative 9 minus 41 divided by 16. So let's do that. So hit control divide, negative 9 plus 41, and then hit the down button, 16. This should be 2 in it, because negative 1 plus 49 is 32. 32 divided by 16 is 2. It's 2. So put equals 2, and now we're going to do negative 9 minus 41. So hit control divide, negative 9 minus 41 divided by 16. This is going to be tedious, okay? Enter, and we get negative 25 over 8. Just leave it like that, okay? So negative 25 over 8. Piece of cake. Oh. And remember, you are finding the 2 zeros, right? If the square root won't work, you're going to get a big decimal, and you'll just type in that square root number, okay? Let's go down to the next one we did. We did 15, okay? So we're going to write down negative b plus or minus the square root, and this is our discriminant, all over 2a. Now then we're going to replace the b and the a, right? Negative fraction bar, the b was negative 5, plus or minus the square root, and let's get the square root of 1225. I think it's 25. Okay, so go over here, control x squared, and then 1225, I think it's 35, so 35. Okay, so this is going to turn into 35 all over 2 times, and my a is 5, isn't it? So 2 negatives makes a positive, so 5 plus or minus 35 all over 2 times 5 is 10. I could probably do this in my brain. 5 plus 35 is 40. 40 divided by 10 is 4. And 5 minus 35 is negative 30. Negative 30 divided by 10 is negative 3. Those are my zeros, okay? Piece of cake. And last one we're going to do is this one. On this one right here, 89 won't work. So this will be decimal answers, okay? So we're going to go through this, and we're going to do negative b plus or minus the square root of 89 all over 2a. Then we're going to replace our a and our b. Negative parentheses 9 plus or minus the square root of 89 all over 2 times 2. Then we're going to write down negative 9 plus or minus the square root of 89 all over 4. In Algebra 2, you'll probably leave the answer that way. Now then, let's punch this in on the calculator and get the decimal answers. So negative 9 plus the square root of 89, so hit control divide, and then negative 9 plus control x squared, 89. I did not hit control divide, did I? Sorry about that. Control divide. That one. There, now I get a fraction. And it's, what is it again? Negative 9 plus 89 over 40. So negative 9, not minus 9. Too many crickets. Negative 9 plus control x squared, 89. See how the square root goes on the top? Hit the down button, and is it 4? It's 4. So 4. Now that I'm going to hit this, it's going to be a decimal. Let's round it to the 100th, okay? Make it like money. So hit enter. So this would be 0.10, and the 0 would round to 1, right? Be like 11 cents, wouldn't it? So we're going to write down 0.11. Okay? So one of my roots is 0.11. Type in and, or write in and. Now then, let's get the other 0. So we're going to type in the same thing, but we're going to do minus, right? So control x squared, or control divide, I'm sorry, control divide, then type in negative 9 minus control x squared, 89, hit the down button 4. This is going to be tedious to get all these answers on the calculator, okay? This will take a time. The more you do it, the better you get. Now then, negative 4.60, the zero's in the penny spot or the hundred spot, the 0 will round to 1, won't it? So negative 4.61. So negative 4.61. That right there are my two zeros, right? Okay? So you're going to go through and you're going to get the discriminant on every one of them. You're going to use that discriminant. You're going to use the discriminant and plug it into the square root, do the negative b over 2a, simplify the work, get your two zeros. What if the discriminant was negative and you put no solution? If you wrote down no solution, you stop because there's no answer. And obviously, if the discriminant was 0, the square root's going to go all the way to 0, and you're just going to divide negative b over 2a, and that's going to be your 0, okay? Piece of cake. Message me if you have any troubles with this. You have a test on Thursday. The test on Thursday is going to be mostly about getting the zeros. Tomorrow we'll do a big review assignment. This is all brand new. If you are not doing the problems I'm giving you, you will not be able to replicate them. If you are not doing the problems I'm giving you, you will not be able to replicate them. Don't forget that, okay? You've got to do the problems I'm giving you. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Remember, you are amazing. You are created to do wonderful things, and you are awesome.